Order. Roll call, please.
Supervisor Simons?
Here?
Clerk Smith here. Treasurer Boda?
Here.
Trustee Petsalis?
Here.
Trustee Babel? Here. Trustee Blackstock?
Here.
Trustee Horn excused?
No, absent.
Absent?
Okay. This is a public hearing on the special assessment on the canals. Is there anybody in the audience that would like to address the board at this time? If so, you have 3 minutes. Go to the podium, state your name and address, and how you're affiliated with this. What's your reasoning? No, go to the podium so he can get you on the camera.
Glenn Spencer, 5500 Point Drive. Got a few questions on the canal. How many homeowners do we have, or lots do we have around the canals?
We have our assessor, Jamie, with us, and he has all that data with him, so I'll let him answer that question.
What's our total, sir?
The total properties in the districts combined are 175.
Well, I'm dealing with just the canals.
Just the canal.
There's 175.
The properties that have been included for the purpose of the special assessment for the aquatic management number 175 properties.
Okay. And so that means we have at least 85 or 90 signatures of yeses.
Good question, thank you. We have 106 signatures of the 175, and they've come in since the beginning in a large group, and then we've had two groups that are probably 20 to 25 additional signatures to show support for it. We need 51%. We currently have 58% of the signatures, and we have 61% based on, well, 58% based on canal frontage, and 61% based on the number of signatures and signers.
Because I did a little survey, and I got 6 of them that I just went to yesterday, and nobody had come around to them.
Well,
I don't know.
I understand, and part of that is coming late in the season as we did, and I'll give Rick Patrick credit. He did a great job in
Okay.
the way that we got it to him, but
What the other question is there's no price mentioned. What is the price?
most
Nobody would-
certainly, as a part of each petition, it clearly identified the cost per front foot, and not on an, when you signed the signature, when you signed the petition, it talked about the district as a whole and what we figured the average price per front foot would be. But no, we did not, you're right, we did not give individual households an estimate at that time. That's what this is here today.
So we got multi-bids on it then? I'm taking it?
We went through Pond Guys. They were the agency that we put that out there. They've done a great job for the community before, and we've had good references from the other communities and other assessors I've talked to, and having dealt with Pond Guys in the past. The point was late in the season. We wanted to make sure that we had an opportunity to present this so that it could go on to the December tax billing for next year. We missed a whole season this year, and it did create a little bit of problems with the growth. So,
Well, that's my next question for you. What is the object or the purpose of this? I've lived down the canal for 35 years. All it does is wreck the stuff, wreck the canals. I don't see, the weeds don't come above the water line. The people that live on, it's a cesspool is what they are, because they don't flow, so.
sure.
But when you spray it, it kills the weeds off, but what's the purpose of it? That's what I'm trying, it's not a navigational, it's not like people are navigating in and out, you know? We got a lot of seniors and they're trying to figure out what their money's being, you know, what the purpose, if there was a good purpose of it, because they're on fixed incomes, of what the purpose of it is for.
The intent is to keep the growth down. You end up this year with the water levels where they are. It may not be as apparent, but when we get in previous years when you have lower water levels and like you said, they're fairly stagnant because the water's not flowing through it. It creates a fair amount of problems with it.
Problems of what? That's what I'm trying
with
to.
algae and with the aesthetics and and,
Yeah, but it's not,
well, I understand.
you see nobody sitting in them backyards, or front yards, however you wanna do it. There's not like people hang out along that canal. I probably use the canal more than anybody that lives on both of them canals. And I don't see a problem of it's clogging up the boat motors, or you can't get a canoe or a kayak up and down. That's why you guys didn't start it until what, 5 years ago?
5 years, yeah, we had a 5-year.
5 year that you started, then they did a couple years before that, because they came around and collected by, but I don't see where it's doing anything, besides we're throwing money in the cesspool.
Well, so that you understand, the township isn't weighing in that we think it's a good idea when we've presented this. People have come to the township and said, we wanna circulate a petition, and we want to use public funding to make sure that this gets billed and collected, so that this program, if it's approved, will allow for that aquatic treatment. It's not the township, the township board is only going to take this information and take it into consideration, and your comments as well. They're very well taken, and they'll make that decision. To get to this point, they had to circulate the petitions, they had to have 51% to go forward, and at this point, they listen to the comments that come from the floor.
Well, I would like to, my proposal to the board is, I would like to have a stay on it in 30 or 60 days. Let me go around with a petition for 51% that don't want it, is what I would like to do.
No, I don't think we can do that.
Because-
We've been presented with a petition now.
Right, but just my little survey I did yesterday, there's 6 of them, I got the addresses wrote down.
So you're gonna have 51% of the people that we've already got.
Because
60%.
it seems to be like the M29 people, I'm gonna presume, are gonna probably, the canal's only 3 feet deep, 4 feet on the main one.
I agree.
So they got a cesspool going on M29 there, with cattails on the end. I mean, I could see if they were collecting the garbage that all blew up the end of the canal, but I don't see where it's spraying the weeds. That's, but I gotta go along with the majority, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Sure.
And these guys will, a lot of them didn't know what they were signing. That's all I got to say. I just.
Okay, all right, well, let's let some others see what our other feelings are. Thank you for your comments. Somebody else want to step up there?
John Latham, I'm at 5526 Point Drive, and I signed the petition, but like Glenn said, we didn't really understand what we were signing, some of us. And, I don't mind going with majority either, but at the same time, I don't really think it's a good idea to attack the weeds so aggressively. It's been my experience, although I've only owned the home for less than a year, I've been there for 7, right? And through those 7 years, the years when the pond guy comes, we were joking about it yesterday, the first time they didn't put any signs in my backyard, I went out there the same week and watered the lawn and killed it. You know what I mean? The lawn died, but the weeds in the canal didn't, and the fish went away. So that's my main concern, is it seems to harm the wildlife that's there. The fishing definitely has dropped off since we started doing this, since, and I like to be supportive of any of my neighbors. If it's $50, I really don't care. You know what I mean? I want to support the neighbors and all that kind of stuff, but I also don't want the wildlife going away. I don't want the fishing going away. You know what I mean? I think there's enough kids in the neighborhood and stuff. These kids use the canal more than any of us adults. So I think we do need to recirculate the petition and be more explanatory. I talked to my other neighbors, Tip and Fran, both very sick people. They don't know what's going on. They just signed a petition. You know what I mean? So
I don't know how the position was presented,
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. So if someone else is willing to, and Glenn's willing to put in the work, I think that's great. I really do. Like make it real explanatory. It's wintertime. We're not going to run out there and, we're not running out there and treat these canals right now anyway.
Well,
This
and
would be
that's-
something that would be done next spring. Now, I understand you're trying to get it on the tax.
We're
You know.
not, the township's not gonna take township money and pay for this in advance of
Right.
having them sprayed.
Right.
That's why we were behind a year, because it wasn't put on the tax roll.
Right, okay,
for the last spring, so we didn't do it.
yeah,
So we want to collect the money ahead of time, so we have to get it on the tax bill by, I think, the 1st of December is when the tax bills are going to go out for the winter taxes. Otherwise, you won't get it done probably till the end of next year, which will be a whole nother year
Yeah.
out. And we told the people that came to us with this that this was our timeframe. And that's why we kind of expedited it up to that time frame to try and do that and have this meeting now, and we're gonna have another one on the 4th. So,
Yeah. I'd give Glenn at least till the 4th then, you know.
So has anybody got a price figure on this at all?
yeah, we can give that to you, yeah.
I can give you an idea that everybody will see the relevance here, that if you had 100 foot on the canal, your annual costs would be $87.55 each year. So it's $87 a year for the whole year, and that'll pay.
That'll be 2
That's
applications.
2 applications. That'll be an initial application.
And we're gonna do two of them.
They're gonna do 2. So this is a little bit higher than before. It's not, I won't say it's not a lot of money, because that's relative to, everybody's gonna look at that differently, but, it's not oppressive per se. And I don't see that there's any problem with taking the comments that you have now and maybe even working with the pond guy before they make their applications and looking at.
Especially the posting the signs, that should have been done if
Why are
you,
we gonna jump to 2 applications?
Well, when we
No.
talked to, that's a great question.
No, they
did
haven't.
one, right?
Mm-mm.
We did one,
There's always
and
one.
the consensus from the feedback that the township was getting in the past was that it wasn't really quite enough. Now, when we talked to pod guys, and
Yeah, they wanted
we
to
called
do
them
3.
back, and they said everybody does 3 or more. We were the only community that they ever did just 1, and they didn't feel that was sufficient either. So 2 is actually a hybrid, and it come with the discussion that I had with Sandy, and we didn't want to create a great burden, but we wanted to raise the price. We didn't want to pay for 3 and jump up to that. We wanted to see if 2 would work and if it would be sufficient. Now, your concerns about the grass, about the wildlife, I think these are great things that we could talk, and even to have a canal committee, which gets everybody involved in talking to each other. But we could talk to people like the pond guys, and we could ask them about those applications before they start them next year. It's a great time to bring everybody together and kind of understand what chemicals are they putting out there, what do we need to know about it, what do we need to tell our kids about it, and what's gonna work best for our community and keeping everybody safe and keeping the weeds down. So I see it as a win-win.
We're keeping it, I get what it's doing, it's killing the weeds off, right? What it's supposed to do is clear it up,
Yes.
clear the canals up.
And it kills mosquitoes.
okay, is there anybody else that would like to speak on this? I want to make sure everybody gets a
Well,
chance.
I can, I guess.
Go ahead.
Do I have to stand up? No?
Yes, go to the podium and state your name.
All right, I live on the canal, and lived there a long while. We used to pay for it, somebody would come collect money. Now, as far as wildlife, this last summer has been like living on a natural reserve. I've had every kind of animal there is. They're in the water, out of the water. We've had swans, ducks, and they're still back there. A heron was there for 3 days just a couple days ago.
And we didn't spray this year, did we?
They did. This did in the spring.
I don't think so.
I think some people had.
I think we did spray
apply
this.
on an individual
We
basis.
got it
I
on.
had sign out saying you spray, but the mosquitoes, I can go in the city and sit in somebody's yard and get chewed up. I don't get that many mosquito bites in my yard, because they don't nest in the water, I guess. I don't know. I'm all for spraying, that's me though.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else?
We
that wants-
used to have a lot of, the terrible weed that took over the canals.
Phragmites,
Those are
yeah.
gone. But the turtles and everything, there's hundreds of turtles, so big. When they jump in, you think somebody threw a concrete block in. So they're thriving pretty well. Catfish, they were catching catfish out there this summer. Yeah. There's still wildlife in there.
It's
what I'm
supposed to be
saying.
nature friendly.
Yes.
All right, is that all that want to speak at this public hearing? And there's going to be another public hearing we're going to set that tonight on November 4th. Will be another special assessment for the roll.
Is that voting day?
What's that?
Day after.
Day after voting day, that'll be our meeting. Our meeting is usually on Monday, but the hall will be tied up with the election stuff for Tuesday, so we did that early in our schedule and made the meeting for Wednesday, the 4th.
And what's that meeting gonna be for?
What's that?
What is that meeting, what's that?
That's for the special assessment roll. Jamie, you want to explain that?
That'll be where they're actually, we did this a little bit ahead of time to create the role. I have one now that, if you wanna send us an email, you can send it to you. I will have those available through the clerk's office that you'll be able to look at them. Like I say, it's gonna be 87 cents per foot, so if you had a 100-foot of canal frontage, it's $87.
Okay, I see. So everybody's gonna be different then?
Well, everybody's gonna be based on their canal frontage.
On their frontage.
And the way it was spread the last time it was done, for the 5-year period.
So the guy that lives out on the point where he's got 3 sides, he's really good.
He's gonna pay
They give you a
more.
higher assessment, yes.
Okay, if there's no other comments, then I'm going to ask for a motion to close the public hearing.
So
on the.
moved. I support.
We have a motion, we have a support. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. The open public hearing is closed. We're going to move on to the East China Charter Township Board meeting
Supervisor Simons,
here.
Clerk Smith here, Treasurer Boda,
Here.
Trustee Petzales.
Here.
Trustee Babel. Here. Trustee Blackstock.
Here.
Trustee Horn, absent.
Okay. And if anybody wants to leave, you're welcome to leave. You don't have, unless you want to stay, you're welcome to stay for the meeting. Would you please follow me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Moving on to the approval of the agenda. Is there any additions or deletions to the agenda as presented?
If there are no additions or deletions to the agenda, I'll make a motion we accept it.
I support.
It's been approved and, motion and approved that we accept the agenda. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to the approval of the minutes of October 5th, 2020. They're in your packet if there's,
I'll make a motion we accept the minutes of October the 5th, 2020.
Support. Thanks for coming. We have support. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next is a presentation and guest speaker, Historical Commission Special Resignation Presentation. I don't know who's doing this.
I am.
Debbie? Okay.
Good evening. I'm Debbie Babel, the Chair of the Historical Commission, and I do have other members with me here that are on the Historical Commission. I have Kathy Blair, Fred Babel, and Carrie Ann Cox. At this time, the East China Historical Commission would like to present Don Boda with a certificate of appreciation and recognition of the hard work and efforts to maintain the integrity of the red brick schoolhouse and museum. Don is one of the first original members appointed to the Historical Commission. The Historical Commission was originated in 1999 when the East China Township funded the restoration of the schoolhouse. As an historical commission member, Don and the rest of the members oversaw the restoration and preservation of the schoolhouse. Thank you, Don, for all your long years of service, preserving a part of East China's history.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Deb.
Very nice.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Moving on to the park plan insurance renewal, we have John Johnson, account manager for Burnham and Flowers Insurance Group, with us. Let me just explain a little bit. We've got you on the agenda for this, but the board has not had any information. We don't have anything to look at, so it's going to be a board decision if we're going to renew that tonight, or if you're going to give us an extension for 30 days or 2 weeks so we have time to look at it. We'll let you do your presentation, and then the board can decide what they want to do with this.
Yeah, I apologize on the timeliness of getting the
Right.
proposal out this year. We were a little bit behind with the shutdown and working remotely and so on. We hope to get the proposal to Cindy last week.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So as far as the proposal and renewal goes, there were not any significant changes to the package this year. We had worked on updating some of the schedules and things like that. But if as we go through this, if you notice any corrections that need to be made as well, please don't hesitate to interrupt and let me know. We do have currently we have a November 1 renewal date, so that would be our upcoming renewal timeframe that we're working with here. And this is specific to the township's property and liability package, which is through the Michigan Township Participating Plan, or the PAR Plan, who you've been a member of for a number of years now. So always want to go over some of the program highlights before I get into the coverage portion of the document. A couple of the highlighted numbers on page 2 there, you'll see dividend returns to date. You've received just under $2,500 in dividends to this point. I believe that the 2020 dividend went out sometime.
John, could I just stop you for a second?
Yes.
We've really got you down in, to do your presentation down under new business, so.
Oh,
Maybe we
okay.
could just wait till we get to there, and we'll be there in just a minute.
Oh,
Then
okay,
we'll
yes.
won't screw up our agenda. Okay? But the board can be looking at that. All right. So what we have is we have the consent agenda. We have C1, financial report, cash and investment report, revenue and expenditure report, balance sheet report. C2 is the historical commission minutes, October 2020. C3 is the St. Clair Fire Authority report, September 2020. C4 is the Marine City Fire Authority report, September 2020. We have C5 is the election commission minutes, October 2020. And C6 is the lot split board minutes, October 2020. So with that, if there's any questions on the consent agenda, if not, a motion would be in order to accept the consent agenda as presented.
So move. I support.
We have a motion, we have a support to accept the consent agenda. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to disbursements, we have bills of $123,269.69. We have accounts payable of $57,062.59. We have a payroll of $30,194.75. We have EFT payments of $44,940.48. We have a tax account of $80,331.22 for a total disbursement of $255,467.51.
I'll make a motion to pay the disbursements of $255,467.51.
I'll support.
Okay, we have a motion, we have a support. Is there any further discussion on the disbursements? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Trustee Blackstock?
Yes.
Trustee Babel?
Yes.
Trustee Vatsalus?
Yes.
Treasurer Boda?
Yes,
Clerk Smith, yes. Supervisor Simons?
Yes. Motion carries. We pay the bills. Next, we have unfinished business, which we have none. Now we're in the new business, is the NB1 is the power plant property and risk insurance renewal. Thank you, John, for bearing with me.
So again, just a couple of the highlighted figures on page 2, dividend returns to date, again, just under 2,500. I believe the 2020 distribution went out sometime around March, so it was kind of right at the beginning of some of the shutdowns and all that, but hopefully you had seen that. Also, grant awards to date. I know as a township, you've received the risk reduction grant a couple times in the past. We are actually right at the beginning of the fall application window for this grant. So it is open from October 1st through November. And as far as the grant goes, no significant changes to that. It's still risk and safety related items. So some examples would be security cameras, security systems, exterior lighting, dash cameras on vehicles, things like that, all the way to, we had a township get the rubberized mulch under a swing set. So a wide variety of things. And although you have received this grant in the past, that does not exclude you from future application windows. So just opened up a week or so ago now, and will remain open through next month. So if there's any upcoming projects that the township is looking into at any of your facilities, I'd encourage you to consider applying again for this grant and see if we can get some of those monies taken care of for you.
Would a township generator fall under that grant?
So they have opened generators back up for the grant. In previous years, they had excluded them for a short while, but they have included those in the approved items now. I do believe there might be a matching requirement for things like generators, whereas certain items don't require a matching. So depending.
Well, I would think we'd have to match. I don't think you're gonna.
Yeah, depending on the size of generator, $2,500 to $5,000 might not cover the entire project regardless. So, but yes, that information is all on the Power Plant's website. They have a designated link for all of those specific dollar amounts and line items that some have a lower limit, but if it's not specifically stated, then the maximum you can receive is $5,000. So. As far as the actual coverage portion of our document, beginning on page 7, again, no significant changes here, but just wanted to do a brief overview and open the floor to any questions you might have. So we always start with the general liability. So you'll see comprehensive general liability and who are the named insured. So named insured is any member of the governing body, any member of any board or special commission, any elected and or appointed official, any employee, which would include full or part-time employees, and any volunteer. So again, anyone working on behalf of the township will be covered under this policy document. Section A, comprehensive general liability. Again, this covers claims of bodily injury and or property damage to others. So not township property damage, but others. Also covers personal and or advertising injury claims, often libel or slander type cases. We do have a $5,000 deductibles for any general liability suit or claim. And anything above and beyond that, as far as litigation or defense, would be covered by the limit. Comprehensive general liability extensions on page 8. Again, no changes to this list of extensions, but always nice to state some of them. Some common ones, especially this year, that we've been pointing out are things like elected and appointed officials' residence. With more and more of our townships working remotely or from home these days, we always like to point out that if you are doing township-related work from your residence and there is a related liability situation that comes about from that work, this policy will extend to your residence. For instance, if someone stops by your house, let's say to drop off even their tax payment or their vote or something like that, if there was a situation that caused a liability case, this would extend again to that residence. So remote working is covered under this section of the policy. All the way through to special events. Again, many of our townships are canceling these events this year, parades and fairs and festivals and so on, but if you do hold any of those events this year still, excluding fireworks and or the sale of alcohol, those events would be covered under the liability section as well.
John, a quick question.
Yes.
First thing, athletic participation, liability, what is that?
So athletic participation would extend to the parks and playgrounds if there were, let's say, a township-sponsored softball tournament or something like
Okay.
that, where it was a township function that involved, sports.
So it would have to be a township function?
Yes,
That is
correct.
through the township?
Correct. Yes, and then any other athletic, events, if it's run by an organization or a league, then that's generally when those leagues or organizations would be required to have some type of coverage. If it's, a pickup soccer game that happens at the park or something along those lines, that would just fall under the traditional liability for the park.
Okay.
So. Section B, employee benefits liabilities. So this would be potentially for a pension or retirement program, a health insurance related program, and or workers' comp. If any of those or all of those programs are in place for employees and an employee feels that they were promised a benefit by one of those programs, but for some reason it was not delivered. Let's say there was a clerical error where someone maybe didn't properly get added to the health program, or there was a lapse in coverage in the workers' comp policy, and there was an injury that occurred, and there was no coverage there, something like that, where there's a grievance or discrepancy in those programs. This would potentially come in to defend the township if need be and pay on behalf of the township if need be, again, for any discrepancies or possible discrepancies in those programs. Section C, public officials liability coverage, sometimes referred to as errors and omissions and or wrongful acts. This is the board's coverage for your decisions and actions that you take on behalf of the township. Again, we have a per occurrence limit here with no annual aggregate, meaning you are not capped on any number of POL, public officials liability claims. We do have the same deductible as the general liability section as well. The POL, the public officials liability section, does have a few sub-limits that I'd like to point out, the last two line items of that section, one of which is called non-monetary defense coverage, and the next is private property use restriction or zoning coverage. Both of these are sub-limits of the POL, and the non-monetary defense is a unique coverage that, if you recall, we had added a few years ago now to the package. The intent of that sub-limit is to cover any potential gaps, maybe, in unique claims or cases that wouldn't fall under a traditional POL suit and or a traditional zoning case. Traditional POL and zoning cases have some form of monetary amount attached to those suits or claims, whereas non-monetary defense would be a case where there isn't necessarily a dollar amount that the plaintiff is asking for, or you know, they don't have any specific pain and suffering or anything that they're referring to, but they're just trying to reverse maybe a decision that was made. And so it's those unique cases that might not fall under the two other classifications. This is the base limit for this sublimit, but we can go all the way up to $3 million. So we have a wide variety of limits that we can offer for this, this sublimit, but wanted to point that one out. Next, we have the law and/or code enforcement liability. Again, any law enforcement actions, also zoning and code enforcement actions, all would fall under this liability section. Same limit, same deductible as the other liability sections. No aggregate here as well. Again, meaning no cap or no maximum on a set number of liability cases for this section of the policy. And lastly, for liability on page 10, we have the automobile liability. So again, this will be primary for any township-owned vehicle, and it will work in coordination with any employee's personal vehicle. Again, if they are using that personal vehicle for township-related driving or township business. One change, and this isn't necessarily to the package or the policy, but one change in Michigan auto insurance law this year had to do with PIP coverage, which is personal injury protection. That is the medical coverage wrapped into auto insurance in the state of Michigan. The change has been that insureds are now able to manually select a lower limit than maybe in previous years. So in previous years, this has always been automatically an unlimited medical benefit, meaning if you have one surgery or 20 surgeries related to an auto accident, you have coverage for those medical expenses. Now you can select unlimited, which for a majority of our insureds, we are encouraging them to keep that unlimited benefit, but you can also select lower limits. Currently, the offerings are $250,000 capped or a $500,000 cap, and or remaining with the unlimited medical benefit. So that is a change in Michigan law, and so we are able to offer those options if that's something you're interested in. For many of our insureds, the savings that you may have from making that change is very, very minimal. But again, if you'd like to see those figures, we can work those numbers as well. But currently, this proposal and the premium related to this proposal would be assuming that you would remain with the unlimited benefit. On page 11, we have our vehicle schedule. Again, we had been working with Cindy on confirming updates on this schedule. But again, if you see anything that's out of place here, please let us know, and we can make those adjustments if need be. And on pages 12 and 13, we have our property schedule. So you'll see a wide variety of structures and contents listed all the way from the hall to sheds and pavilions, lift stations, and so on and so forth. And in addition to a handful of the buildings that we have listed contents, we have in some future sections inland marine, which may be more mobile related items. So when we talk contents, we're really talking your furnishings, your furniture and things like that that aren't necessarily coming in and out of your different facilities. But inland marine would be more mobile related items. Yes.
John, back on the property coverage, on these lift stations, did we increase this value on some of these lift stations?
I believe we did, yes.
Because we're finding out that we were a little underinsured, because we're starting to rebuild these lift stations, and the money we got that it's costing us to rebuild them is more than what we have
higher,
insured.
yeah. We had made some amendments
We
to
made some
the
amendments on that.
valuations to those,
Okay.
yeah, and I think we had used basically the figures or close to the figures of the newer
The rebuild.
units. So what we kind of did was we looked at the newer, most recent units and said, okay, if these are, let's say $270 or so $1,000 in coverage, what would some of the older units need to be covered for replacement coverage? And so we did make some amendments to some of the older listed state lift stations, yes.
Yeah, I mean, we really, Record Road, looks like that one's up a little bit. Okay, thank you.
We do cover the property on what they call a blanket valuation. So if you refer to page 14 of the proposal, that first line item gives you essentially our total building and contents coverage. So what they do is they add up all of your buildings, all of your contents, and they come up with this one figure, or one bucket that you can pull from for any one claim. So again, that does give us some wiggle room as well for some of the valuations of the buildings, but we always like for them to be as accurate as possible, and especially since we're covering them on a replacement cost valuation, it's always good to have those updates like we had made this year. Currently, we do have a $1,000 property deductible, so any building or contents claim would have a $1,000 deductible. On page 15, similar to the liability extensions, we have some extensions of the property section. Again, no changes to this list of extensions, but these are all going to be in addition to the actual buildings and contents listed. So it covers a wide variety of things, but the intent there is to cover some things that don't fall under just your traditional property coverage. Everything from tree cleanup to underground pipes and flues and so on and so forth. Pages 16 and 17 and continuing on to 18 is our inland marine and EDP sections. EDP is the electronic data processing, so more or less the tech for the township, computers, printers, phones, and so on. And then we do have some specifically scheduled tech items like the voting machines and so on, which would be in the inland marine section. But again, in that section, we have a wide variety of items as far as mowers. Looks like we do have one or two generators at this point already. Some of the courts and park items and so on and so forth. I think we had made some minor tweaks to this schedule as well, but again, if you see anything out of place there, please don't hesitate to let us know, and we can make additional adjustments if need be.
Excuse me, this tornado sirens have a value of $11,000. Is that per siren?
So it looks like we have 3 listed for a total coverage of $11,000. So that would be
That's it?
spread out between the 3. That's currently how they're scheduled.
You're way off.
Okay.
Yeah, you guys paid more than that for them when you bought them, didn't you?
We paid $20,000 a piece for
A
'em.
piece? Okay.
That was 30-some years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was over 30 years ago.
Well, we're right now, the county is underway with trying to update all the sirens, so whatever the expenses are to repair our sirens will be passed along to the township. So maybe at that time, we could adjust the sirens and get a true value of what we got.
Yeah, any supporting documentation that you have, whether it's,
We really don't
original-
have any right now.
It might be a little hard to dig that stuff up, but if you're doing any, new projects related to that where you can get either an appraisal or a comparable quote or something like that, really the supporting documentation is helpful, but if you notify us that we need to increase these by X amount of dollars, we will make that adjustment, based off of your request. So supporting documentation is great, but if that's a project that might not, happen until even into next year, and we'd like to get that updated sooner than later, we can definitely do that.
Okay.
We do have some coverage for miscellaneous property and equipment as well. So on page 18, that last line item, you'll see miscellaneous property and equipment. we have almost $231,000 of just miscellaneous property and equipment. So that also does give us some flexibility with some of these items. Generally, miscellaneous is intended to cover lower dollar items that you don't necessarily specifically schedule. But again, at least for the time being, that could give us some flexibility there.
Now,
I
do we
think
still have the 5,000 deductible on all this?
for inland marine, we have a $1,000 deductible,
$1,000?
similar to the property section, yes. So
I'd just
currently,
like to go back to this kayak launch. I mean, with our high water, we couldn't even put it in. And
okay,
they're talking about now we gotta put a seawall or something along that park.
okay.
Is that something we can turn into the insurance, or? I mean, it was functional for years the way it was. Now the water's come up. We can't even hook it up because the thing's underwater.
Okay.
But there's no damage to it, right? It's
Well, we
just
can't use it.
Once the
Yeah,
water goes
so-
down.
So unless there's a peril or a claim that causes damage to listed property, there's no insurable, there's no insurable claim there. Now, if it were a case where it were put in and a storm caused damage or something along those lines, our traditional perils, there would be
Yeah, okay.
coverage, but for property, really, we're insuring it against a claim. And so if there's changes to the environment that don't allow you to use the property, that's not necessarily an insurable case. If there is a situation where you have to, put in additional structures or seawalls or make amendments and things like that, again, that's also not necessarily insurable, but then going forward, we would want to make sure we cover whatever
The
additional
increases.
property that's put in place. Seawalls are a unique one where we can list seawalls or retaining walls and things like that, but there can be limited coverage for those types of items. Structures running into them, boats, what you would think would be normal claims would fall under that coverage. But sometimes erosion and things like that also are not necessarily insurable. So if there were a case where it's after many, many years of water erosion or things like that, again, might not be covered. If it's a sudden loss, that's usually the determining factor. If there's an event that you can really tie it to and say, okay, the damage was caused by this boat running into it or something like that, then that's when it would be insurable for those types of structures.
Thank you.
Moving on to page 19, we have section 3, our crime and bonding section. So this all has to do with township funds. You'll see a few different limits for things like theft, disappearance, destruction of funds, employee dishonesty, and a few other terms that they have for the crime section. And then as far as bonded positions go, you'll see our listed bonds. Generally, they fall from treasurer kind of down through supervisor. And we have a couple of the deputies listed in there as well. Not sure after the election if there will be any change in the makeup of any of those positions, but if there are, we don't have to update or amend the bonds. I think I had mentioned this last year, but they are all assigned to the position, not the individual. So if there is ever a change in the makeup of who the appointed individual is for those positions, we don't have to tweak or amend the bonds. Really, the only bonds that we offer that are specific to the individual are things like surety bonds, which would be separate from these bonds, or if you have maybe a notary that needs to be bonded, generally that's assigned to the actual individual. On the back cover, page 20 of our proposal, you'll see our Michigan Township Participating Plan renewal premium. We come in at $14,755 this year. We do have some additional program options like we generally list, two of which are the property and liability terrorism extensions. We did offer a cyber and privacy liability policy this year, which would be in addition to this program or to this policy. This would be through a carrier that we've been working with most of 2020. Now it's kind of a new appointment that we've had with CFC, and they're one of the industry leaders in that realm. Also offered increased liability limits, and one of the increased options for one of those sublimits that I had mentioned, the non-monetary defense coverage.
Okay, as I mentioned earlier, this is late coming, getting this, and I don't want, if the board doesn't feel comfortable, we can table this. Would you extend our insurance till the next meeting, or
Yes, so when is your next,
on November the 4th?
November 4th? Okay.
I mean, it's up to the board. What do you guys want to do? Do you want
Do
to?
you recall what the last year's premium was?
I had looked up
Chance?
in our system, it might not have been at renewal, but the policy end premium, so there might have been some changes from the beginning date to, basically now, or the current policy was 15,690. So we are actually down even from last year with some of those changes that we made. I think the most significant change that was made was the coverage limits for some of those lift stations. We had increased those quite a
We found
bit.
some discrepancies in the lift stations, and we've corrected that, and that's, even though we've upped our amount on some of our lift stations, we have taken 2 of them off. So,
Yeah, so those might
that's
have.
why the premiums have went down a little bit. We thought it was gonna be almost a wash, but it looks like it's better than a wash.
Yeah.
About $1,000 or
Yep.
a little less, a little more than 1,000.
I would be comfortable making a motion. It's something that the township needs to have in place. It's ongoing every year. There aren't any major changes to the policy.
And one of the reasons that we're not bidding it out too is because, we did that, a year ago? And we feel that this is just a renewal for 1 year. And if the new board decides that they want to bid it out in a year or two, that'll be up to them. But we all know what a hassle that is, the bidding.
It can be, yeah.
I
Yeah.
would agree with you, Larry, that it might be a hassle, but tell you what, and Don remembers this, when we did start bidding it out, the gentleman before you, we
Larry,
lowered our
yep.
premium over $4,000.
Yeah.
Oh, we lowered it for
It came down,
years.
and it came down, and I remember the gentleman from your company said, if we keep bidding this thing, pretty soon I'm gonna be paying you guys money instead of giving us money. So, some information to the board, maybe you don't wanna do it this year, but I do urge you to continue
To look
competitive
at it.
bidding,
Oh, it's
because
always
it's
good
only
to get
gonna
extra bids.
keep John honest.
This will
Yeah,
really be the
sometimes,
first
yeah.
year since I've been involved that we haven't done it.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
I know for years Larry Clever had worked with you.
Yes, Larry,
and I,
yes.
And I remember looking at the notes, and I saw that premium came down and down. And
kept
it
coming
is
down
good
and
to
coming
keep
down.
us honest, as well.
But I gotta agree
one-
with Sandy now, I mean, we don't have another bid right now. So,
We
I mean,
don't.
to hold this
This is
thing
just a
and to do
renewal.
something, all we have is one bid, we don't have time to go out and get another bid, so I wouldn't have issues on voting on this tonight.
So we have a motion, do we have a support?
I'll support.
We have a motion, we have a support. Is there any further discussion on the renewing the package for $14,755? I guess we don't want any of the additional coverages, right? Okay, that's your motion for
14,755,
Yes, 14,755.
right?
And we have a support. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Trustee Blackstock?
Yes.
Trustee Babel?
Yes.
Trustee Patsalas?
Yes,
Treasurer Boda?
Yes.
Clerk Smith, yes. Supervisor Simon?
Yes, motion carries. Thank you, John.
Yeah, thank you very much.
thank you, John.
With your permission, I can follow up with Cindy on the siren valuation that we
Yeah.
have.
Let's keep her in the loop on this, what we want to do. It's probably going to be, they were talking about it could be up to a year before we even get to the point where they get them all synchronized. But we should, that's a good point. We should.
I would hate to wait on it to get, the exact figure, and if we even have an estimate of that might be more accurate.
Well, we may be able to get that estimate from the emergency management outfit that's doing, they're trying to get a grant to look at them throughout the whole county. But maybe they would have some idea what it would cost, and then we can put that into the evaluation.
If it were something that were happening sooner than later, I'd be comfortable waiting, but if it might be, a year from now, before that takes place, I think we'll want to adjust that figure.
Yeah,
And we can just do that effective whenever. So we'll do it via
All right.
endorsement, and it
yeah,
won't change this
yeah,
at all.
touch base with Cindy on that, and we'll go from there on that. Good, thank you.
very much. Good to
Thank you.
see
I'm glad we got it settled, and we don't have to, everybody don't have to come back on this issue.
And we'll be sure to note, especially for next year, we'll get this out to you sooner so you have it in your packets,
Right.
obviously.
Yeah, because we don't like to, that's why I made sure the board, if we don't want to act on this, we don't have to, but, I mean, it's pretty cut and dry, and we're saving money, so I think it's, as long as you keep coming like that, you'll probably get it renewed.
A little bit of a unique year this
Yeah.
year, working mostly remotely, but good to be able to come out and, present it, so.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good day, John.
Here, John.
All right, moving on to new business 2, Resolution 13, 2020. Is that you, Sandy?
Sure.
What is it?
Okay, Resolution 13, canals between M29 and St. Clair River, aquatic cleaning of the canals special assessment role. Whereas the East China Township Board has made a final determination of necessity to create a special assessment district for a 5-year aquatic cleaning of the canals between M29 and St. Clair River. Proposed district shall include those properties fronting and aforementioned proposed district for the improvements. And it lists all the properties that have frontage on the canals. The Supervisor Assessing Officer of East China Township have caused a special assessment rule to be prepared to determine individual costs of the improvement, and special assessment rule being on file with the Township Clerk's office and available for public inspection. The total assessment shall be as follows. The cost over the 5-year period is $59,000 to be spread over a 5-year period. Cost of $4.38 per foot. Yearly cost of approximately 88 cents per foot of canal frontage. This dollar amount will be placed on the December tax bill without interest. And the public hearing for the rule shall be scheduled. Well, we
On
have a
November
public hearing
4th.
tonight. Okay,
All right, thank you.
I'm sorry, when is the public hearing for that?
November 4th.
November, we're going to make
It'll be the
that.
second public
It's
hearing.
down on the second hearing.
Yeah, it's actually on the next
It's NB4.
resolution.
All right, we have a resolution and a support.
Who supported?
I'm asking for support.
Oh,
I'll support.
Debbie supports. Any further discussion? We have to vote on this, right? Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor signify by saying yes.
Yes.
All right. Opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to NB3, Resolution 14, 2020. You want to do another one?
sure. Resolution 14, canals between M29 and St. Clair River, aquatic cleaning of the canals, special assessment role. The Township Board has, under the authority granted by Public Act 188 of 1954, after having been petitioned by not less than 51% of the total front canal footage of recorded property owners, decided to proceed with the establishment of a special assessment aquatic cleaning of the canal project. Again, those parcels are described by tax ID numbers, and a public hearing of necessity was held after proper notice tonight at 7:15. And the Township Board does hereby approve the special assessment improvement project and district as herein described. Be that further resolved that the Supervisor and Assessing Officer is hereby instructed to prepare a special assessment roll containing the names of the respective owners thereof and a total amount to be assessed against each property owner. Be it further resolved that all resolutions and parts of the resolutions insofar as they conflict with the provisions of this resolution being the same hereby are rescinded.
Okay, do we have a support for that resolution 14?
I'll support.
We have a motion, we have a resolution and a support. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Resolution passes. Moving on to MB4, set public hearing date for special assessment rule of November the 4th, 2020.
What time would we set that for, Larry? Would it be
Well,
15 minutes
that's what I
before,
want
or-
to talk to you about. In talking with our township manager, she said it's normal, and I see it tonight, it almost happened tonight. She said, really, you should have your public hearing within your meeting, which would be, we put it on the agenda as an agenda item. Then we can take as much time as we have to on it. We're lucky that we got it ended pretty close to 7:30. Otherwise, it backs up our pre-scheduled meeting, our board meeting that we've advertised, and I don't want to get into the Open Meetings Act, but, we can't go over into that. So, we've never done it that way, but we've come in and if we make it a half hour ahead of time, if nobody shows up, then we sit here for a half an hour. If it's within the body of our meeting, then if nobody's here, we go on and we finish our meeting, and we don't have to come in early, and I'd like to try it, I don't know, that's just my opinion, but. So that would be, in setting that, will we set it for, the 7:30 meeting on November the 4th. So I don't know, is there any feedback from the board? Does anybody have a problem with doing it that way or trying it?
No, that's how most communities actually do it.
What's that?
That's how most communities do it.
Do they, you've been to a lot of board meetings, yeah, that's.
Yeah.
So if we want to try it, I mean, we can
Yeah, I
try
can
it this
see
meeting,
it's
and the new
gonna
board can do it the way
eliminate
they
some of the
want. Maybe they'll want
problems,
to start
yeah.
doing it that
So
way.
we start with the public hearing at 7:30?
No, we
No.
start with our regular.
It's just like
meeting.
just
agenda
be
number
like-
1, 2, or
Business
3,
item?
Yeah,
whatever
like the
agenda
new
item.
business MB3 or something,
Okay. All right.
Okay.
Okay, so with that, I guess we need a motion that would say, we'll have the special assessment roll November 4th at the board. It's regular scheduled meeting.
So moved.
I'll make that a motion then. and,
Support.
We got support. Is there any further discussion? Everybody understands what the motion is? If not, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, next is MB5, set dates for budget workshop and 2021 budget public hearing. We have to have the workshop before the hearing. I'd like to have the hearing on the November the 4th also, so we can have the public hearing, or can we do it the same, we can have the public hearing and then vote on it after that too, can't we? I think that's what
That's
we've
what we
done.
normally do.
That's what we've done in the past, so we could make it for the 16th if that's what you like, but I don't want to cut it too close. It's supposed to be done, I think, by the end of the year. Correct?
When would we be able to take a look at this?
That
The
was
first
my
time we
next-
look at it, it's going to be at the workshop, or we get to see it
No,
before the
you'll get to
workshop?
have, it'll be, she said she'd have, everything will be ready this week, probably Tuesday, Wednesday, and I told her that I would deliver them to everybody and you'd have a
Okay.
chance to look at them. I'm suggesting that maybe next Monday or Tuesday or someday next week, that we could have a workshop. I'm leaving that up to the board. What's a good day, time? I mean, it can be any time or any day. But no, you will have the budget in your hand before
Okay.
we have the workshop. Time to review it. I mean, does like Monday or Tuesday, is that, I mean, what's a good time for you, Herb? You're working all the time.
Doesn't matter. As long as I know what.
Ange, what,
Monday would be fine, Monday or Tuesday would be
Monday, you
fine.
wanna make it Monday?
I'd like to make it, I mean,
6 o'clock or 5:30 or, does that sound good, Herb?
Yeah.
okay, so Monday at 6?
Monday at 6, okay.
That's October.
That good for you, Deb? Here at the Township Hall. All right, now the next thing is to set the public hearing for the budget. I think we could do that on the 4th then, right? We would have our,
What is that date?
that'll be another 7 or 8 days after that. So you want to do that on the November the 4th also?
Is that the public hearing for the?
For the budget.
Okay, I'll make
And then
a
after that, we can vote on it if there's no conflict, and we can adopt the public, or the
budget.
2021 budget.
Okay, I'll make a motion, we set the public hearing November 4th, 2020 within the board meeting.
Okay. Do we have a support?
I support.
We have a motion, we have a support. Is there any further discussion? Everybody understands what we're doing? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to announcements. The only announcement I have is I've been keeping an eye on the Miser Road Bridge. They're making some great progress down there. They've got, looks like they're getting ready to pour the deck, which is a big project. I read in in our road watch that we get from the county, and I think they moved the date up, but I'm not sure. It said November 6th, and it always was the 16th, so I don't know if they moved it up 10 days or not, or it's just a misprint. But
That'd be
they're
great.
making good progress down there, and it looks good. Other than that, I don't have anything. I just make sure everybody gets out and votes. We'll move on to member comments. Mr. Fasales.
I just have a couple things. Just listening to John speak tonight with that grant that they have, that would allow us with all the security measures that we've done in our township, I don't think cameras would be a bad idea for the future board to look into. I mean, I think it'd be a good idea to put it at the water plant, the sewer plant, the DPW, and here. I mean, if we have, if the grant is available and we can have that paid for, I think that would be a good thing to have and something to look into, especially with all the security measures we're doing right now. And the other thing is, I just want to congratulate the Marine City football team on winning another league championship this year. It's been a shortened year, but they came through and they played very well. They got one more game left and then on to the state playoffs. But congratulations to the football team. That's all I have.
Thank you. Mr. Voda?
Yes, I have a couple of things. I agree with Angelo about getting the cameras, and probably wouldn't hurt to put a camera or two over at the park to keep an eye on some of the equipment over there. And I have one other thing. I heard we've had this problem once before. The recycle pickup by Mterra has not gone according to schedule. They have, in China Township, you probably want to check with Linda to make sure that this is right. But the people who live in China Township have said that when Terra has come through and pick up the garbage, they're picking the garbage up, but they're also putting the recyclables in the same truck. They're putting them in there as the garbage. And they're not supposed to be doing that.
We had this when they first got here. And I don't know if this is the answer for you, but I know I went out and witnessed this. They have a split truck
I
That has-
witnessed it too.
that has, they dump it over on this side as the recyclables and on this side is the garbage. If you take notice, right around on Thursday, you'll see that split truck out there. But I'm not saying that's not what happened, but
Right.
that's what we found when
Is that
we
a good
traced
way
it
of
the
doing
last,
it?
how's that?
Is that a good way of doing it?
Well, yeah, it saves them going out to that same house again. Most of the time, they pick it up with a separate vehicle. But some of the, when they're behind, they do use the split truck. And I went out and witnessed it. Sandy says she's seen it.
too.
We had that problem right after we got them, Tara. People were saying they're dumping the recycling right in the garbage truck. Why are we doing it? I can double check and make sure that that's what it is.
That's what the rooms I'm hearing, so.
Yeah, well, and it's, you gotta actually look, have you seen the truck, Angela?
No, I have not. I have not.
Anybody else seen it? Herb has seen it. You gotta actually look, because it's not a big division. One side's about that wide,
Narrower, yeah. for the
then the other side's maybe 6 feet wide.
Okay.
All right, but I'll check on it. Is that all you had?
That's all I am, sorry.
Okay. Ms. Smith?
Just that we have issued over 1,400 absent voter ballots in East China Township. So we are getting close to almost 50% of our voters voting AV this presidential election, and we still have 2 weeks to go, so we're rolling along.
Good. Mr. Wexler?
Just a question, have you heard anything else on water levels? I know
Just
they're-
that it's going down.
I know they're down,
I mean, we're down, what, over a foot for sure, isn't it?
it's at least, but I'm just
Somebody
curious.
said 16 inches, but I didn't measure it.
Yeah, that might be generous. I was just wondering if you heard anything coming into the winter.
I haven't heard anything for the spring, if we're gonna be up or down or what. Hopefully it's on a cycle down, but I don't know that.
Thank you.
You think, Ms. Babel?
Nothing tonight.
Okay. I'd just like to congratulate Mr. Boda on his certificate. I think that's wonderful that you got that. You put a lot of years in at that historical.
36,
You were here when they probably redid the museum, huh?
36 years.
Yeah, wow. That's wonderful that you put all that time in.
I'm still-
And also the Marine City
still
football
surprised.
team, it was quite a game there Friday night, and congratulations to them. I hope we're all healthy for our next game. We got a lot of township kids on that team, and a lot of Marine City kids, and Cotterville and China. Yeah, it's a good team. Other than that, I don't have a whole lot. So I guess a motion to adjourn would be in order.
Make a motion to adjourn at 8:25.
I support.
We have a motion, we have a support to adjourn at 8:25. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We are adjourned.